We've had material come out in the last 2 months that would knock the socks off of any traditional media expose. A memo by Andrew McCabe documenting discussions of wearing a wire on the President of the United States. Just this week, I think it was in partnership with the Daily Caller News Foundation, documents showing that an Obama State Department official was talking to the political chief of the Russian embassy, seemingly about Christopher Steele and the Fusion GPS Russiagate smear. Of course, it's classified, but that was what the request was for. Give us documents about that, and that's what we got. So, it seems to me there might be some public interest in figuring out what the Obama gang was doing with the Russian embassy a month before Trump was inaugurated and how it ties into Russiagate, but no coverage in any of the mainstream media. Hillary Clinton could be deposed within weeks on her emails and Benghazi by Judicial Watch. Zero coverage in the mainstream media. But certainly if you're following us on the internet and in alternative media, as I point out, like Daily Caller and other groups, you would know about it. And frankly, that's nothing to shake a stick at. Is that the metaphor? That's significant coverage these days, right? Because the New York Times is completely off the rails in the Post and many of these other organizations in terms of just it's all about destroying Trump and not about just doing basic journalism and fair coverage.
Well, there really are two worlds now, and let's talk about those two worlds as they come together. We've had this secret in the bowels of the Capitol building pseudo-impeachment tribunal down there with Adam Schiff shouting down Republicans who are asking questions that they don't like or refusing to call witnesses that Republicans would like to depose. Now that show is going semi-public next week. They're going to be public hearings, sort of a redo of witnesses they've already spoken to that Democrats, I assume, feel comfortable with. The big vote in the House the other week was portrayed as this is what the White House wanted. This is what Republicans wanted. They wanted the ability to call and question witnesses. They wanted the public to see it. So we're moving in that direction. But actually, examination of the rules tell a different story. Adam Schiff is still God. He still gets to overrule anything that he does. He runs the show. So talk a little bit about the disconnect between the way what's happening and what we can expect to see next week is being portrayed, the disconnect between that and what really is going on.
There's no due process for the president. This is an impeachment inquiry by their own admission. The president isn't allowed to call witnesses. He's not even allowed to be present as his aides and top policy people are being questioned about White House deliberations and deliberations with foreign leaders. So not even classified information, which would be typically come up in those discussions, is being protected. It's just extraordinary to me. And so every coup needs a show trial, and the show trials will begin next week. So there's no due process. It's just a witness coming in that they think they can be used as a cudgel against President Trump. It's not respectful of I think what the founders intended, which was which is a process that respected the executive branch, respected the choices of voters, and I don't think the founders or current day American voters think that the impeachment power to be used as a political weapon. The more you look at the impeachment, and I encourage people to read the transcripts of what has come out, read the news stories, but just read it with a bit of a jaundiced eye. And what struck me about it is the coup is corrupt, it's abusive, it's a threat to the Republicans, all of that. But when you look at it, it's also kind of boring. It's kind of petty.
Yes.
Because there's not much there. You got a bunch of bureaucrats worrying about what Ukraine policy is for 6 weeks, engaged in rumor mongering about what the president did or did not want. And some of them complaining, one ambassador complaining she was being pulled back because she had lost confidence. The president had lost confidence in her, which is not unusual nor corrupt.
It's not illegal. The president can fire an ambassador because he doesn't like the way their glasses sit on their nose.
The president's exercising his core duty as the the commander-in-chief to conduct our nation's foreign policy, and there are bureaucrats sniping about it. Like I said, it's petty and boring. So this is not the good faith basis for an impeachment. And as I think about it, I think the Senate needs to step up and say we're not playing this game. There's not going to be an impeachment trial. It ain't going to get out of we're going to strangle it in its cradle. This coup. So don't think that you're sending it over means that we're going to give it the respect it's due, meaning it ain't getting a trial. Because that to me would just be doubling the abuse on the presidency and the republic as to give this coup the time of day in the Senate through a full trial.
That's kind of what Lindsey Graham is sort of talking about now. Mark Levin has talked about preemptively just declaring that under this process, we're not taking anything up at the Senate that the House sends over. Mitch McConnell has a slightly different view. There's not going to be a conviction. We'll do it as quickly as humanly possible. But
the leader, Majority Leader McConnell, seems to be circling around the issue and kind of laying the groundwork.
He's tough to nail down.
For it.
Squirrely for a term.
But certainly they've moved off their original position that there's the trial's inevitable. Lindsey Graham is suggesting otherwise or yelling about the process in a way that would, I think, give them some wiggle room. I think politically they're worried probably about Senators Collins, Murkowski, and Romney not being there to support shutting it down even before it gets out of the gate.
How can an impeachment inquiry go forward when the man chairing the impeachment inquiry is technically a material witness for their interactions with the so-called whistleblower and Lord knows what else? I mean, at some point, we should be able to ask some questions about Adam Schiff, for example. Where is the Russian collusion you guaranteed? If you're sitting on this information, now would be a good time to come out with it because Robert Mueller, 2 years and $25 million, couldn't find it. But he could well have been involved in the concocting of a lot of this, yet he's now in charge of it.
Well, that's right. And to be more specific, the leaker communicated with Adam Schiff, may have conveyed improperly information he wasn't allowed to convey, which was classified.
Which he shouldn't have had in the first place.
Well,
it was conveyed to him by somebody else.
Right. And so we don't know whether he should have had it to begin with, which also needs to be investigated. Then he communicated outside official channels, outside the law with the House Intelligence Committee, Schiff's staff. Schiff was briefed on it, but then he lied and said otherwise.
Multiple times.
When asked about it, and he repeatedly, as you point out. So it raises questions about the whole genesis of the investigation. And, in any ordinary investigation, he'd be conflicted out. But it's the House. And under the Constitution, the House can do what it can get do what it gets its way with. But on the other hand, impeachment doesn't overrule the rest of the Constitution. And the president deserves due process. And there is a quasi-judicial aspect to this process. And the president, I think, would have a chance in court at least to try to get himself involved in the process and protect his interests.